Hi, Matt from Modern Samurai again. Today we're going to be looking at what's the difference, if there is one, between martial arts and self-defense. Again, it's one of those questions that I get asked quite a lot, so the course of these kind of little rambles, if you will, are to try and answer some of those questions that I frequently get asked, and this was one that came up. So if you like what we're talking about, please subscribe, click the little icon. So what's the difference then between the two? The best way for me to explain this is to use an analogy like the Green Cross Code. So when we look at the Green Cross Code and we say, right, if we look at martial arts, generally speaking, that's a physical skill, and it generally teaches physical things. So that's being hit by the car. So you've already bypassed all the other areas of that, and you've actually been hit by the car, so you're having to deal with the accident. And that's generally martial arts. So if we look at self-defense, then that's a wider, broader thing. So you look at all the soft skills, you look at the avoidance, and that sort of stuff. And so when it comes to the Green Cross Code, you've got your stop, look, listen. That's essentially what good self-defense is. Okay, you stop, you look, you listen, you make sure that there's no cars coming before you try and cross the road. So in essence, that's the best form of self-defense, is obviously not to get involved with that in the first place. So when we look at that, I would say that that was one of the fundamental differences, in the sense that the majority of martial arts teach physical skills predominantly. They don't really go into the avoidance and the other side of things, and we need to do that. All right, also, we have to bear in mind that when we look at self-defense, there are actually three fights in an actual real sort of encounter. There's the psychological, then there's the physical, and then there's the legal. And so when we're looking at self-defense, we have to understand all three of those things. So we have to be prepared for the psychological impact, for what things happen to our body, how we deal with that. Then we have to be ready for the physical aspect of the fight. Now, again, when we look at this, we have to look at, when you look at certain martial arts, what you'll find is there will be a lot of intricate small movements, and it will get more complicated as you go through the ranking systems, and rightly so, because you're learning a skill in that respect. But when you're looking at self-defense, it has to be simple, it has to be easy to retain and easy to use. You lose a lot of your fine motor movement skills, and anything under stress becomes much more difficult to achieve. So simplicity is key. So instead of actually adding on skills, you're actually chipping away. It's kind of like a sculptor, yeah? They will actually chip bits of rock away to end up with the form underneath. And so that's really what good self-defense is. It's chipping away at the unnecessary as opposed to adding bits on. So that would be another key difference with regards to some of the different ways to approach it. And then you've also got to look at, well, what's real? And when you look at that for self-defense, you have to say, well, am I always going to be dressed in a certain outfit? Am I always going to be in a certain place that has flat floor, mat, good lighting, things like that? Was it possible that I may be sat in a car one day, or on a train, or in a bus? Is it likely that one day I might have a cold, or I might have broken my leg, or I might have my 2-year-old daughter with me, or something like that? And all of these things, come into play as well. And also, then lastly on this, we have to really look at the rule bases of the systems. Now, if we look at, say, boxing, predominantly that's a punching art. There's no throws allowed, no takedowns, no things like that. And so that's what they train for. If you look at, say, wrestling or judo, there's no striking, so they predominantly learn grappling, takedowns, groundwork, that kind of stuff. And then when you look at the different systems, you can start to look at where maybe you could suggest that they need to look elsewhere for some other things to make a fully rounded system. And so then you could work your way through and say, well, okay, maybe MMA is the way forward there. And MMA is a really, really solid sport, it really is, and some really tough guys that do it. And there's no denying that these guys have got some really high-level skills. But again, when you look at it, it is a sport. There are rules, and there are things they can and can't do. So there's no thought about weapons or multiple opponents or things like that, and all of that also has to be taken into consideration. So the reality of it is then, martial arts and self-defense are not the same thing. There is a large crossover, and there are a lot of really good martial arts out there that will teach you a lot of really good skills towards self-defense. But self-defense is more than just martial arts.